Before this video starts, I'll give a little disclaimer. The audio in this video is not the greatest. It is a little choppy and echoey at times. While editing, I've made sure that the audio is as clear as it can be despite recording this audio in my house. Another thing is that the game footage you'll see in this video does not belong to me, but rather MK Fire and Ice on YouTube. I did record a bit of my own footage. However, considering that Stray takes an average of around 5 hours to get through completely, I chose to focus more on getting my script nice and ready for this video. The final thing is that due to this game taking a player on average around 5 hours to complete, this game footage is extremely trimmed, and only shows some parts of the game. If you're interested in playing the full game, I would highly recommend it, as it is a great game to play and very fun. Anyway, let's get back to the video. Imagine stepping into a neon-soaked city, but instead of playing as a human hero, you're a small, curious cat. That's Stray, a 2022 game by Blue 12 Studio, and it's the perfect case study for understanding two key ideas in game studies: immersion and narrative parameters. Now, some people think that the fewer choices you have in a game, the less immersive it is, but Stray actually flips that idea on its head. My argument today is that Stray shows that restrictive narrative parameters, like its linear story and the fact that you're playing as a cat, doesn't weaken the immersion. They make it stronger. How? Through sensory detail, environmental storytelling, and emotional connection. To explain this, I'll start with immersion, then look at narrative parameters, and finally show how the two work together. Let's begin with immersion. What does it mean to be immersed in a game? Gordon Calliger in 2011 pointed out that immersion isn't just one single thing. He described different types: kinesthetic, spatial, narrative, even shared immersion when playing with others. Around the same time, Ermi and Mayra built the SCI model, which breaks immersion into 3 areas: sensory, challenge-based, and imaginative. Now, in Stray, sensory immersion is everywhere. Think of the glowing cyberpunk visuals, the detailed animation of the cat stretching, grooving, and leaping, and the sound design, the soft padding of paws on metal, the faint hum of machinery, the sharp echo of a meow. These details pull you right in. Challenge-based immersion also plays a role. The game's puzzles, stealth moments, and platform sections aren't overly difficult, but they ask just enough of the player to create focus. And then there's narrative immersion. Right from the beginning, when the stray cat is separated from its family, players are emotionally hooked. That bond deepens with the companion drone B12, and by the time B12 sacrifices itself, the emotional impact feels very real. Calliger's idea of spatial immersion is also key. The city rooftops and alleys don't just look explorable, they feel explorable. Calliger talks about incorporation, where the player feels present through their avatar. And in Stray, that's amplified by the unusual perspective. You're not just playing a cat, you are the cat. Now let's shift to narrative parameters. Espen Arshift in 2012 argued that games are cybertexts. That means their rules shape what narratives are even possible. Henry Jenkins, on the other hand, introduced the idea of narrative architecture, where the environment itself carries the story. In Stray, the narrative parameters are tightly controlled, because the story is linear. You don't get branching paths or multiple endings. At first that might sound limiting, but instead it sharpens the experience. The world tells its story through environmental detail. Graffiti on the walls, old posters, the cozy homes of the robot characters, all of these build history without a single cutscene. Jenkins would call this narrative architecture in action. And let's not forget the perspective. Because you're playing a cat, you can't talk, you can't negotiate, and you can't make dialogue choices. That limitation forces the game to communicate in non-traditional ways, through visuals, through atmosphere, and through B12, the drone companion, who provides the lore and emotional dialogue. So instead of weakening the story, these constraints actually focus it. RSF's point comes alive here. Rules and restrictions don't drain meaning from the games, they shape it. So what happens when we bring immersion and narrative parameters together? This is where Stray really shines. The two are not separate forces, they feed into each other. Because the narrative is limited, players focus more on immersion, on exploring the world, embodying the cat, and noticing the details of the environment. Exploration becomes the main way of experiencing the story. And on the flip side, immersion makes those fixed story moments hit harder. B12's sacrifice isn't something you can change. There's no alternate path. But because you've been drawn in through sensory and spatial immersion, the moment feels deeply personal. Jan Noel Fon argued in 2009 that immersion isn't just a single state. It's layered and flexible. That's exactly what we see here. Stray layers sensory, spatial, and narrative immersion, creating a strong emotional payoff even within a fixed storyline. Jenkins shows us how the environment becomes a narrative tool. Caliger explains how incorporation makes us feel like the avatar, in this case a small but determined cat. And Arasef reminds us that constraints aren't weaknesses, but part of what makes games meaningful. So what does Stray teach us? It teaches us that immersion and narrative perimeters aren't in conflict. They reinforce each other. By limiting choice, the game strengthens sensory and spatial immersion. By deepening immersion, it gives fixed story moments emotional weight. The result is a powerful reminder that games don't need endless freedom to be immersive. Sometimes constraint is the very thing that creates presence, embodiment, and atmosphere. As Caliger, Ermi, Meira, Azareth, Jenkins, and Thon all suggest in different ways, immersion is complex, and narrative isn't just about choice. Stray proves that through smart design. Even a game with tight limits can make us feel fully absorbed, fully present, and fully moved. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I have put all my references at the end of this video, and I hope you have an amazing day or night.